Can you talk about your team's ability to refocus every week and how they've been dialed in on the task at hand and only that? And has that been the most impressive thing to you, even more so than execution?
Well, I think our staff has done a good job week in and week out of talking to the guys about how important it is to come every week, and the leadership is really the guys who drive that on the team, and their buy-in right now is pretty high. So you're only as good as your last game. So we got to keep that going. But up to this point, I think we've played with energy. But that goes back to how we've been practicing. So we got to get out there today and have a great practice.
Front row middle, Dave.
Coach, I'm sure you had high expectations for your team coming into the year. What's been your biggest pleasant surprise on either side of the ball, or just anything about your team through 7 games?
Nothing, that strikes me other than what we talked about in terms of the chemistry and the leadership, the buy-in, the way the guys are working together, the energy that they have. I mean, that part's been great. And there's a great culture here right now. I think guys enjoy playing. They enjoy practicing, all those things. So, that part's been great. I mean, there's a lot of things that guys have done well, but you try not to reflect too much on all that right now. You just, it's got a huge game in front of us right here. We got to stay locked in.
Baron Browning, I know you're not going to talk about injuries specifically, but is he dealing with some type of injury, or could it be something else?
Yeah, it's an injury, and he's working through it, but he looks good so far. So.
Front row left, Mitch.
Ryan, Wisconsin lost the game it was not expected to lose. How does that affect the way you prepare the team and what you say to them about Wisconsin?
We know how good they are on both sides of the ball in all 3 phases, and they got great players on both sides of the ball, NFL players, and last week is what it is, but this is college football, and so you have to bring it every week, and it's the same thing with us. I mean, we have to bring it this week. This has got to be our best game of the year. It's going to be our biggest challenge on both sides of the ball, and we got to prepare better than we have all year. And we know that this is a good team. I mean, they played against teams we played against, and so you can compare the competition, and they've done a really good job. Obviously, it starts with the running back and the run game on offense, and then it goes to what Coach Leonard's doing on defense, and they do a great job. And we've gone up against them before, and we know schematically they're really good, and they play tough. They're smart, all the above.
Right behind him, Bill.
Brian, Wisconsin's defense has first or second highest sack rate in the country. What is it about the way they play that allows them to get after quarterbacks so well?
They got really good rushers on the edge. Bond, does a great job in one-on-one situations. He's very active and powerful, especially in third down. And those linebackers do a great job as well of adding on or blitzing in different situations. But the secondary is very talented as well, so you have to hang on to the ball maybe a little bit longer than you wanted to. But again, it goes back to personnel and scheme. When you combine the two of those things, then you get what you see in terms of statistics.
Your offense obviously is playing very well, but the one number that is a little out of whack for you guys is how many sacks you've given up. And I know it's not just pass blocking. Justin can hold the ball long or try to make something happen. But just overall, how do you feel about your pass protection? And I guess could you let us in a little bit on how you all communicate that, trying to get the right protection of the guys lined up where they need to be?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a few things that have gone on this year. Some of it's protection, but some of it also is that Justin tries to create, and he works through his reads, but then there's times where he wants to extend and create, and that's okay too. So it's not the end of the world sometimes on third down if he's looking to create if we take a sack, because there's also times like in that big third down he got, 3rd and 14, he avoided a sack. Probably could have thrown the ball away there. He didn't. He avoided the sack and then keeps his eyes downfield and finds KJ for a first down. So I think it's a little bit of that. But there are some things we got to clean up in protection as well.
How do you feel about the way that Justin sees that pre-snap and how he and I guess it's Josh sort of communicate that to everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, the center makes the call, and Justin's on board with that, and then he can also trump him at any point, and they communicate that, and we spend a lot of time on protection and making sure that we're identifying where the pressure is coming from, and then those guys have done an excellent job, in my opinion, of communicating the protection, and so we've held on to the ball a little bit longer this year, but that's by design.
Ryan, you talked about Diwan after the game, and he's such an interesting athlete. You guys used him on the field goal block. It looks like maybe if you wanted to, he could be an extra guy in short yardage or something. Is it worth going beyond 4 games with him to come up with a role, or do you need to just have one more left with him?
He'll probably go more than 4 just because he is very talented. We want to get him in some of these games, when we can. And, his ceiling's very high, and we want his development to continue. And I really think it's important for these guys to play. Again, we won't be foolish with this and waste a year, but at the same time, the more these guys can play, I think you saw that in the fourth quarter. I thought on both sides of the ball, guys were into it. We were playing hard. We were competing. I think that goes back to 6 or 7 games of guys playing and being on film and getting better and having that hope that they are going to play in a game, as opposed to going through 6 or 7 games without ever actually getting on the field, and that can kind of stun people's development. So we're going to play them if it makes sense. We also don't want to be foolish.
And Thayer, he didn't look like he was at full speed. I don't want to talk about the specifics there, but just getting him involved and the way he was able to respond, how significant was that just to get him through that game? And he gave you guys a lift when he was in there.
Yeah, it was gritty. It was tough. Thayer, played for his teammates, which goes to show you what kind of kid he is. A great kid, unselfish. I think the day off was great for him. He's feeling good, and he should be ready to go this week.
Front row left, Nathan.
Obviously, Wisconsin has, succeeded at a pretty high rate in this conference. Other schools like that, and Ohio State's been just another tier above that. So, just as a head coach, how much do you feel like that is part of your calling or whatever here to keep a gap between Ohio State and programs like this one?
Oh, I don't know about all that. I just know, if you just lock in on right now, that's what matters in playing this game. And, I think at the end of the year, you kind of come up for air and start to look at different things. But we've said all along that all we're going to do is just focus on this week and be a 1-0. And, again, I know it sounds cliche, but it's real. And we got to stay locked in on this and can't worry about what this game doesn't mean. Just worry about what we're doing in terms of our assignments, motivation, guys practicing hard, getting ourselves ready physically, mentally, emotionally, go play a really hard game at noon.
In terms of Cone there, quarterback, just your thoughts on him, what he brings to the game?
Yeah, I think he's playing at a high level. He's doing a really good job on third down, keeping him on schedule, first and second down. He's very accurate when he throws. He's got some weapons out there. And I think he's really, obviously Taylor's the guy that gets him going, but Cone has done a really excellent job of managing that offense, and he's a good player, and so I think as the team goes, and it's between Taylor and Cone. I mean, they're the guys that get these guys going, and then Cephas on the perimeter in one-on-one situations is a matchup issue. So they have weapons, and they have a really good scheme as well.
Right behind him, Ari.
Ryan, when Justin entered the transfer portal, it was a very short amount of time, a condensed recruitment almost, from just recruiting somebody out of high school. I know you guys looked at him when he was in high school, but how much did you know about him during that short amount of time? Because it seems like very quick between portal and then now he's at Ohio State. And what did you have to do to familiarize yourself enough to know that he's a guy that you want and need in your program?
Yeah, we did a bunch of homework on him when he was coming out. He was committed to Penn State, and then decommitted from Penn State, and at that point is kind of when we got involved with that recruitment, got to know he and his family. So at that time, we kind of knew enough about him. His high school coach is somebody that I've known for a while, and somebody that when I recruited, the school back when I had Atlanta, I knew those guys. So once we saw that he was in the portal, we kind of already knew about him, knew his family, so moved pretty quick, and it all worked out.
Recruiting process, and maybe now that the transfer portal is becoming a thing, how much do you rely on evaluations as a evaluator yourself from people that work with him at the Elite 11, the camp circuit? There's a lot of evaluations being done by a lot of different people, and I was just wondering how much credence you give to these guys and if it ever impacts your decision.
Yeah, I think anytime you were trying to figure out, especially a quarterback, you use as many tools as you can. Coaches in the area, guys that have played against them, coaches he's had, teammates. And like you said, some of these Elite 11s, rivals camps, things like that, people who work, with these guys, you can get great information. And sometimes it's somebody who you wouldn't even notice. Somebody that was just kind of there, watching. He's an assistant coach from a local school, and say, hey, I saw that guy, and he did something really good after the workout. He went over and did something, showed respect, shook someone's hand, or maybe the other way. And so I think that's just good recruiting. Is you ask as many questions about these guys as you can, because you have limited time, in front of them, and time you can contact them during the recruiting period.
A lot of these people in those circles think that he is one of the most advanced prospects that they've ever seen. I'm wondering, what was your take when he was in high school? And from a dual threat standpoint, being equally almost as good as a runner as he is a passer? Is he the most complete prospect at that position that maybe you've ever seen, or is that going too far?
I don't know. I mean, I know that he does have a lot of tools and he has a lot of talent. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of talented guys out there, but what they do with their talent in terms of creating discipline and skill is what's critical, and he's in the process of doing that. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I haven't sat down and thought about where he ranks with some of the other quarterbacks coming out of high school, but certainly number one recruit in the country, and he got a lot of respect coming out.
Third row right, Rob.
Ryan, I'm guessing that the TCU game last year feels like a million years away. This arguably is the biggest challenge since that game for you. That was your first one. Do you look back and just say, I have come a long way, or how you've come a long way as that coach to today? Have you seen an evolution, and in what ways?
I try not to think about things like that when I'm driving to and from work and all that, because there's so much going on that we need to get done in terms of on a daily basis in terms of tasks and everything like that. But that does seem like a long time ago, and a lot of things have happened since then. And again, the more you do something, the more normal it becomes, and you find your voice. But then more importantly, you get a feel for the guys that you're with, and the staff, the players, the leaders, and it changes every day, especially when you're dealing with 19, 20-year-old kids. Every day you come to work, it changes. You might have a thought of, here's how I think the week's going to go. And then you get there that day, you're like, nah, it's not going to go that way. Here's where it's going to go. And sometimes you really get that feel about midway through the week. Here's how the team is feeling. Here's what they need at that time. And then you go from there. And I think that's good leadership. And I think that's something that I've really got a good feel for and rhythm as time has gone on, is getting a feel for the team and their personality as the weeks have gone on.
What's the one thing you didn't see coming that is really different when you TCU to here? Is it maybe it's not even the football side of it? I don't know.
No, I don't think there's one thing that I would say that just jumps off as you ask me right now that has caught me off guard. I'd have to probably think about that and get back to you, but certainly things pop up here and there that you got to be able to adjust to.
Booster meetings, alumni meetings.
I mean, the people around here are great. I love some of the people that we deal with here. They're great people. Our administration's unbelievable, and it's part of the gig. I love every part of it.
Front row far left, Lori.
Coach, the week of the Miami game, you were asked and said that you thought that this team could be something special. How much has what has happened since then convinced you of that?
I think each week I feel more and more confident about what we're talking about. But again, it all goes back to what we do this week. So I try not to get over my skis in that and start talking about all that too much. I do think that's the case. We have a special group of guys that can be great, but again, it doesn't mean anything if we don't perform week in and week out. And we have a huge challenge this week. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. These guys are physical. We're going to have to bring it in every single way. And if we just stay focused on that, all those things are going to come down the road we can look back on. But, you cannot let one get away. And this is going to be as hard as it gets. These guys, are coming off a tough loss. They're going to be more hungry than ever coming in here. And, I read a few of the articles saying, they have something to prove more and more now as we get closer to this game. And so it's going to take everything we have to win this thing.
So the conventional wisdom is true that a team coming off a loss is hungrier, more dangerous than a team that's fat and happy after a win?
I think that there are always issues on film, and it's really the job of the coaching staff and the leaders to make sure that we address those issues. So there were issues in the Northwestern game. Now, can we address those issues and get better from those issues and understand and be open to criticism and be self-reflective in order to get those issues addressed? Sometimes, after a loss, they're a little bit more, attentive to those things, and something that we've been hammering with our guys. Let's not let it take a loss for us to understand the issues that are there, because they're always there on film, and that's what Sundays are for, getting those things fixed. And then once we have our victory meal, we move on to the next team.
Second row right, Tony.
Ryan, you and Kevin have dealt with Wisconsin. You kind of know maybe what's worked, what hasn't. What kind of value does Mike Yurcich, brand new set of eyeballs, have against a defense like that?
But big time. He's always got really good ideas, and so always coming up and drawing stuff on the board and coming up with different things, and so it's always good to have great ideas, and that's what Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or 4 is coming up with different things to attack the defense with, and then but at the end of the day, it comes down to execution and how we install that and make sure that guys are locked in and can execute at a high level.
And then, what has been the most adversity you guys have ever overcome this year?
I don't know if it's any one thing. There's different things that come up on a week-to-week basis, and we're gonna have them even more as we could move forward. I think that some of these games have gotten sideways pretty quick, but there's nothing to be ashamed of there. I mean, guys are working really hard, and I mean we've had practices that we're not proud of, that we had to tighten up on and different things, but they're coming.
Third row left, Dan.
Ryan, when you're going up against a defense like this that's ranked number 1 in the country, do you view this as an opportunity to kind of see how good this offense can really be?
I think it's always a good benchmark to figure out where you're at. Yeah, I mean this is the number 1 defense in the country, so we consider ourselves to be one of the top offenses in the country. So this is find out where we're at, and so I think it is. It's you want to play good, and you have to make sure you take care of the ball against guys like this, and you got to be physical, and you got to take care of it for sure. You got to play good situational. They do a really good job on third down. They do a good job in the red zone, and they're really physical, and they got talent on the edges. So, yeah, it's going to be a challenge for our guys, and we got to answer the bell.
And you were asked about Diwan. A couple other guys, Kate Stover, Steele Chambers, they're at that pregame mark right now. Where are you at with those guys in terms of whether they could redshirt or continue playing?
Yeah, same thing. We'll look at the game plan and see if it makes sense to get them in there to help us win. If that's the case, then we'll definitely do that. But we certainly don't want to put those guys in there and just take a bunch of reps that would be a waste of a season.
Right behind him, Patrick.
Ryan, in a few of these games recently, you guys have, I don't want to say struggled in the first quarter, but maybe not put up as many points as you do in the second. I'm curious if you could take us inside the sidelines and the conversations you're having as you look at defenses, you're talking up in the box, how you make those changes that then has allowed that second quarter explosion we've seen.
Well, I think we play against good teams. We play against good defenses. Even my wife said, well, it was a tough first quarter, and I looked at the thing, and in 10 minutes we scored a touchdown. I was like, 4 minutes into the game we scored a touchdown. It wasn't that bad, I mean, the standard's pretty high around here, We score 52, and it's like we were really slow in the first quarter. It's like, okay, that's good. That's a good problem to have. Nobody rises to low expectations, and but we play against good teams. This is another good defense. But I mean, Northwestern I think was the 30th ranked team in the country going in. I mean, they're good, and sometimes it takes a while to work through that stuff. And when teams are fresh and they have good schemes and everything like that, it takes a little time. But I'm glad that the expectations are high around here.
Are you communicating? Okay, this is what we thought might work. Let's switch to this, plan B type of thing, or is that kind of the conversation?
Of course. Yeah, it's conversations about matchups, about schematics, what's going on, the rhythm. Is this a good play? Is this not a good play? Where are we at in the game? Those type of things they're all being talked about.
Right, Bill.
Yeah, I'm assuming you watched the Wisconsin-Illinois game. Is that right?
I did.
What were your thought process during the game? Were you hoping Wisconsin would win? Did you care? What would you?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you watch those games. I try not to root for anybody. You just kind of watch it and like a fan. But yeah, it was. I thought Illinois played well. I thought Wisconsin played really well at times. They turned the ball over a little bit there towards the end, and Illinois and Coach Smith did a great job of getting those guys ready to go at home. And that's college football. I mean, we've been on the other side of that, so we know all about that. But yeah, no, I was just watching the game just to kind of get my eyeballs on it.
And does that kind of reinforce what you've been preaching to your team all along? That hey, anything can happen, and this is Exhibit A of that.
Of course, yeah. I mean, again, we know exactly what that means, and a lot of teams, are the same way, and so that's why you have to bring it every week. Yeah, it's tough, but again, there's a lot of great teams in the Big Ten, and they come, and to win a game on the road in the Big Ten is really hard. To win at home in the Big Ten is really hard. I mean, these are really good coaches, really good players. They recruit really well. They have really good schemes, and so it's hard, and it's going to be that way again this week.
And as hard as you make sure your team keeps its nose to the grindstone, does it give you more of an appreciation for what you have been able to do that you haven't had even a close call yet?
I mean, I know that we're excited the way that game played out Friday night for sure, and that coming off the bye, I thought the energy was good, and the way that we finished the first half was good, and the way we finished out the game I thought was solid. So that's been great. But again, it doesn't matter until you get to the end of the season. When you look back on the body of work, where are we at? It's easy to say, oh yeah, we're doing great. Oh yeah, but there's a lot of football left to be played. So all that can go out the window if we don't show up again on Saturday.
Right next door, Tim.
Yeah, Ryan, following up on that, when you watch Wisconsin with its number one ranked defense in almost every category, but then it gave up some big plays against Illinois, some basic plays. Does that, do you think, help your offense's confidence going into a game like this, that if you keep knocking on wood, so to speak, it'll be there?
Yeah. I think we always have a good game plan going in that we feel confident about, and we believe that if we do these type of things, and when we do have confidence that we should be able to move the ball, that's part of who we are. But this is a good defense, and it's hard to find areas to attack them. I mean, they're good in all areas, so it's going to be hard. And Illinois did find a couple things, but that's why we spend so much time game planning and making sure we go through everything.
Yeah, I was going to follow up with that question. What is it about their defense that stands out most? They seem to pretty much play you straight up more than anything because they feel like they're talented. Is it what just stands out about their defense more than anything else?
So they're so stout up front, those guys up front, Loudermilk and all those guys. Or I mean, they're strong and powerful in there. So they win the line of scrimmage. They have a 2-gap in mindset, and so they always always have an extra gap in there. And then in the back end, I think they're very, very well coached. Coach Leonard does a really good job of their leverage and the way they drive on things and their pattern matching and all those things. So I think it's a combination of scheme and also toughness and execution.
When you have to play Nicholas Petit-Frere's the fourth tackle y'all started this year, obviously you'd rather play with your first teams, I think, going in at least. But as you look back on it, what is the benefit of that silver lining, I guess?
Yeah, that we've built depth there. And that was our fourth tackle, like you said, which that's pretty amazing that we can put our fourth tackle in the game against Northwestern, against a pretty good front right there, and still kind of hang in there. I mean, he didn't have a perfect game, he didn't grade a champion, but he was competing the best he could, and Thayer kind of supplemented him in there in the second quarter, which was great. And then we got Diwan in there at the end. So building depth, like we talked about from day one, the offensive line was going to be critical. They were all going to play. I didn't know how they were all going to play, but they are, and it's good to see Nick step up.
Front row, middle, Joey.
You guys lead the nation in third down conversion rates for your offense, and even looking back at that Northwestern game, you guys were able to convert a few third and longs. JK runs for 8 yards. Justin kind of has the one play where he scrambles and it's 3rd and 15. Why is that an area your offense is able to succeed at?
I think when we stay on schedule and it's third and manageable, that gives us our best chance. We have an opportunity to run or pass, which is always good. When you start to get into third and longs, then now it's a little bit more always going to be a pass, and they can tee off a little bit. So staying on schedule is critical for us. I think our guys have done a pretty good job in protection, and Justin's done a good job of creating and giving guys a little bit more time downfield to get open. And for the most part, our receivers have competed well on third down.
The flip side of that is Wisconsin's really a third down defense. I think they're first in the country in that as well. What challenges will they pose for you guys on third down?
The pass rush is really good. I mean, Bond coming off the edge is dynamite. I mean, he's really good, but he's not the only one. I mean, they got other guys right there. They have good scheme, good coverage. They'll challenge you. They're not afraid to get up in your mug and in the perimeter and challenge you and make it hard and disrupt the route. So, they don't miss. When they get in there, they get a shot at you. They don't miss.
Just one more. JK mentioned before the season that he wanted to be the best running back in the nation. Going up against Jonathan Taylor, obviously they're not on the field at the same time, but it's a matchup where both running backs are playing against each other. Is this a matchup he looks forward to?
You'll have to ask JK. You'll have to ask him, but I know that he's very competitive, and I'm proud of the way he's prepared and entered into the season up to this point. And, but yeah, he's competitive. I mean, I think he wants to compete against everybody, and the fact that he wants to be the best running back in the country, good for him. That's the way he should think about it. But yeah, you have to ask him about that.
Yeah, Coach, as the game was wearing on against Northwestern, you guys were scoring in 2 and 3 plays. Even from 60 and 70 yards, you were hitting a big play. How do you kind of ingrain in Justin this week that it's going to require patience, and it may require 10 or 12 plays, and it will not require him forcing a ball into a bad spot, perhaps, to try and get it in 2 or 3 plays?
I think the bigger the game, the more the emphasis on the plan to win, and that's, play great defense, which for us is trying to get 2 first downs and get the ball to midfield and then possibly punt from there and then pin them inside and play great defense and the game of field position. And then turnovers is the second thing. We got to do a great job in taking care of the football. Anytime you give the ball up in big games like that, that's when it can go sideways. We got to play well in the red zone. We get down in there. We got to score touchdowns. I thought we did a good job of that last week, but it's going to be even harder this week. And then we got to do well in the kicking game. Got to play well in the kicking game. So I think the bigger the game, the more the emphasis on those points. Because when we've done a good job with that, things have gone well.
Right next door, Bruce.
Nobody saw Wisconsin's loss to Illinois coming. You can go through it and you can pick out interceptions. You can pick out mistakes by players. I'm sure Chris picks out things he did that he'd do differently. I just wonder, with all the time you put into this, all the thought, all the planning, when you get to Saturday, how much control do you really think you have over what happens out there?
I think by the time you get to Saturday, the hay's in the barn, and by the time you get to that field, the work that's been done in terms of game planning, installing, practicing Tuesday on the first, second down game plan, and then doing a good job on Wednesday with third down red zone, and then polishing it up on Thursday. And then from there, Fridays is all about tips and tests and film and making sure guys are prepared. Physically is just as much as mentally, though, and so I think once you get to that point, all those decisions are made. The game plan's done, and I think that's where it's really, really important. That's what, we've been really focusing on, that once you get to the game, you kind of sink to the level of training. And I've always believed that. I don't think there's any magical plays you just pull out. It's all about how well can you execute them and how well do the guys know them and how do they fit and put your best players in a chance to be successful.
So does that mean when you get to Saturday, you're more relaxed than you are through the week? Because if you have less control.
I get more, I'm a little bit more relaxed on a Friday because you put so much work into it. As it gets to the game, obviously you're in the moment, so adrenaline's pumping and you're kind of rolling pretty good once you get in there, just the competitor in you. But I feel the stress earlier in the week because I know that the decisions that have to be made, the plays, the installation, the execution, what we practice, the looks that we give, all those things are so critical and how well they play on Saturday.
You gave us an amusing anecdote about your wife in the Northwestern game. You haven't lost yet. Because of that control thing that you say is more of a through the week than a Saturday thing, inevitably, I assume, unless you're the greatest of all time, you'll eventually lose a game somewhere. Will you be able to handle that? Will you be able to handle that better than you handled it as an assistant coach, or will you feel more like
No, I'll feel it more. Yeah, I feel it more. And it's one of those things that you worry about, you feel anxious about sometimes, but all you can do is, as you get closer to the game, is just go and be aggressive as you can and go fight as hard as you can and just be the competitor that, when you used to play, that's what you do. And you try not to worry about that stuff. But in the back of your mind, you understand what's at stake and, the people that are counting on you to do well and the expectations here. And I get all that. I told you that from the beginning. But at the end of the day, when you're in it, you can't worry about that. You just got to go as hard as you can and fight as hard as you can and just trust that everything you're doing is going to work.
Along those lines, no offense to anywhere else you've been, but almost everywhere in football, losing is part of the deal, right? I mean, Boston College or Temple or New Hampshire, in the NFL, I mean, nobody goes undefeated. What was it like when you got here for the first time and it was like, oh, what's the deal here? And the deal here is like, oh, you can't lose. Like, what was that? Was that any kind of adjustment of, it's normal to lose here and there, but with the way this system is set up in a place like this, a loss can kill you.
Yeah. I mean, it I guess there's a little bit of an adjustment there, but at the same time, it's all about what your expectations are, and every place has their own expectations. And if you don't meet those expectations, then it's a failure. And the expectations here are as high as they could be. And you just have to accept that and figure out the culture and how that makes sense and how to put the guys in the best position to meet those expectations. And you go from there.
Justin throwing the ball. You guys have made a lot of, they look easy throws from the hash to the far sideline on those little 10, 12-yard outs. You started the game against Northwestern with one, and then the guy knocked out Austin's hands. But that looks like it's there for you guys a lot. It obviously can't be as easy to execute that as you guys sometimes make it look. What is required for you guys to be able to do that repeatedly, and you have done that all year?
Yeah, I think that the timing and the work that's put in during the week of understanding, the structure of the defense, where the ball needs to go. I think Justin's done a good job of, seeing, okay, here's the coverage, this is where the ball needs to go. I think the receivers have done a good job spacing out the routes, creating separation, and then making the throw and the catch, but then also the protection that comes with it. The passing game can look real foolish if there's no protection. But it all comes down to identifying what it is, practicing it, and then being competitively excellent during the game. And that's kind of what's gone on so far, and we got to keep that rolling.
What's the arm strength that Justin needs or any quarterback needs to be able to make that throw look easy?
Arm strength's a funny thing, and being a quarterback guy, we could talk for hours about what arm strength really is. It's not really the strength of your arm physically. It's all about sequencing and how you can take energy from the ground up, and he does an excellent job of that. But so much of it has to do with your footwork and making sure your cleats are in the ground, and then you're driving the football. Some guys just have naturally better whip than other guys. They can push the ball down the field, but and there's a certain level of just natural ability and understanding that. But I think a lot of it is coaching and understanding, the footwork and timing up the footwork to make sure that the ball comes out at the right time and with the right pace.
And he's been good at that.
Yeah, he's been very good at that. Again, is he perfect? No, but he's doing a good job so far.
And I don't know that we've asked this generally. Jonathan Taylor, he's good. Why is he good? What do you see with the guy?
Why isn't he good? I mean, he's strong, fast. He can change direction. He's powerful. Guys bounce off of him. Runs with an attitude. A lot of guys who are that big don't have the agility that he has. He's got good agility. He can run away. He's good out of the backfield. He's caught the ball. I mean, he's kind of an all-purpose back.
Final couple individual questions. Fourth row right, Joe.
Defensively, one of the biggest issues last year seemed to be stopping the run. This year, you guys are only allowing about 2.5 yards per carry. How do you see you guys' ability to stop the run this year, and how important have those interior guys been for the?
Well, I know this is going to be the biggest challenge of the year, and it's a major challenge for the guys up front in the front seven and in the secondary. These guys are big, strong, physical. They're going to try to move us off the ball, and obviously Taylor's is as good as there is in the country. So we'll find out after Saturday, find out where we're at with this thing. I think we've done a good job of defeating blocks and winning the line of scrimmage, but this will be the ultimate test when you play Wisconsin.
And fourth row inside right, Wyatt.
Master Teague is 5th in the Big Ten in rushing, and coming from questions early on about who the second back would even be, did you expect him to have this type of impact so early on for him?
Didn't have a lot of expectations other than getting him healthy and seeing what he could do. But he is a good change of pace, and he's done a good job of when he goes in there running with his pads down, and when he gets in the open field, he's done a good job of pulling away. But he put a lot of work in terms of with Tony understanding the different schemes and where to hit this thing. Last year at this time, didn't really see some of those hits, but he's doing a good job of it with his footwork, seeing the holes, hitting the hole, kind of being slow through, fast too, and the whole thing. So he's doing a good job.
Great, Coach. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
We'll have Greg Madison, Tuff Borland, Chris Olave, and Tommy Togiai, and maybe our quarterback. And if we don't get our quarterback today, we'll get him tomorrow. And the rest of this press conference won't be transcribed. Unfortunately, something broke. Just Coach Dave. The budget broke. Some electrical thing broke. Okay, we're going to open up the floor for Coach Madison, second row middle, Steve.
Hey, Coach, right here. I suppose if we had Jeff Hafley here and we asked him about Wisconsin, it'd be a hard question for him other than film study. He's never really played them here in the last 5 or 10 years, but you've lined up against them at your previous school any number of times. Without giving away how you guys are going to defend them, just what makes them so difficult with what they do? to defend, and why are they so effective at what they do?
Well, in the first thing on that with Wisconsin, I grew up there, and I mean, I was born and raised watching the Badgers, and the one thing they're very well coached. This is a very, very good coaching staff. They do a outstanding job. They recruit big, strong players up front for their system. And now they've got some great skill also with it. So, they're just a very, very talented team and very well coached team, and they'll play extremely hard.
I don't want to say he's better than anybody else they've had at quarterback because it's all relative, but it seems like he gives them a little bit more of a dimension, running the ball and throwing the ball than maybe some of the other guys they've had in the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I mean he gets better every week too, and he's a very talented quarterback, and he's a person we're going to have to definitely deal with.
Third row right, Rob?
Greg, you came here knowing it was a first-year coach that you're going to be working under. A, did that give you any hesitation at all? And B, how have you seen Ryan Day evolve from the day you got here to where he is? I assume there's been some growth.
And the first question, no, there's no hesitation whatsoever. Secondly, how has he evolved? I mean, I don't know how he's evolved. He's just good. He's really good. I mean, he comes in every day. I don't care who we're playing, where you are in your season. It's the same guy, and expects us to do a great job. He does a great job. He's very, very true to his players. He expects his players to continue to be great character, great in the classroom, and great on the football field. And he demands that, and nothing's changed, And from the first day till now, I mean, he's doing a tremendous job. And
how about a comfort level, though? I assume in any line of work, the first day is a little tougher than, 6
comfort level for
him in terms of just what you see.
I don't see it. I don't see any difference from the very first day till now. I mean, he goes about his business and does what a great head football coach does.
Front row right, Austin?
Great.
From Lettermen Row.
You guys obviously, did just fine stopping the run on Friday night without Baron Browning. When he's back and healthy, what is he doing well? How does he help you guys?
Well, Baron Browning's an outstanding athlete. He's very, very strong. He's got experience. He plays extremely hard. I mean, he does what a great linebacker or a very good linebacker is expected to do, and he's a very big part of our defense. As far as the run, I don't know that it had anything to do with somebody not being in there or somebody being in there. There was a number of little things in it that is not acceptable. We all know as a defense that we don't want to give up yardage like that on a run. That's not our deal. That's not our backbone. But what happened is a number of communication things. It was just small things, little things all the way through that would definitely be corrected. And it didn't have anything to do with personnel. It didn't have anything to do, it could have been the calls. Could have been me making the wrong call, that kind of thing. But it's, that's something that we will definitely correct, and they know that.
I wasn't suggesting anything was wrong with 3.3 yards per carry, but you guys weren't happy on Friday night with the run?
Well, anytime, I don't care if they rush for 60 attempts, we have goals. We have goals, and I'm not going to say what those goals are because I don't want it on somebody's bulletin board. But I do know that the backbone of any great defense is stopping the run, and our kids have really done a great job of that, and will continue to.
Front row middle, Dave from 24/7 Sports.
Greg, Michigan has a very good defense. You would know something about that. As you're studying film on Wisconsin, they were really able to do almost whatever they wanted to do against Michigan's defense, so they called the dogs off. As you're studying film, what did you see, again, without giving too many secrets away, what did you see that Wisconsin was able to do so effectively against Michigan?
Well, I don't know if it's against them. I'll say what Wisconsin has done effectively all year, and that's run the football, execute the play-action passing game off of the run. And it's the same thing. Anytime a team has the ability to run the football, with some success, now that opens up the play action passes, and it opens up the next phase of it. And they've done that against everybody they've played against. That they established the run, and therefore you're going to see some, in their scheme of things, they're going to get people more open.
Chase Young, we knew he was a great player. I didn't know personally he was such a great leader till this year. Is that something you noticed right away about him when you got here? Has he kind of grown into that role? Or
well, he's done such an outstanding job of doing what Coach Johnson has brought him along to do from the day. I didn't know him when he was younger other than recruiting him, but you just see him every day get better and better, and with that comes confidence, and with that comes belief in what we're asking him to do. And you're right, he's become a great leader, and I think that comes with confidence and success.
Nathan from Cleveland.com.
Taylor had, I think, 16 total receptions his first 2 years. I think he's already matched that this year. Just what added dimension does that bring as far as trying to defend him and them?
Well, I mean, you got to be very disciplined. I mean, you're right. Again, when a running back has 2,000 yards, and your first thought might be, boy, you got to load up, and we really have to do this, and we have to do that. Well, anytime you do that, you take away from one part, you're going to be open to the next. And again, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. They're a very, very good coaching staff, and they see that. They see that, okay, this guy has hurt some people running the football, and therefore this part of it should be off of that.
You got some younger defenders into this game, the linebackers, Kayvon and Gant, and some of the DBs getting interceptions, guys off the bench. Just what impact does that have, not just for them, but potentially for this whole defense?
Well, and that's a great question, because if there's anything that our coaching staff, and there's a lot of things we're very, very proud of, but the thing that we were really, really proud of and have been throughout this year is that late in the game, when we have had, a chance to be ahead, the players that have gone in have treated it like it's 0-0. And we've made a big deal of that. And the guys that went in, we don't look at it as backups, you're in now. We look at it that you've worked really, really hard, and you've earned the right to play now. And when you go in there and you represent Ohio State University, now we expect you to play at a certain level, and they've done that. And that was probably one of the things that we're the most proud of, is how those young guys played.
Third row left, Dan from 11 Warriors.
You guys put in Josh Proctor, Amir Reed, Jocelyn Wynn, all in some different roles in the first half of Saturday's game. Kind of what are the different things that each of those guys bring that had you guys kind of working them into different packages?
Well, they all had different roles. Like, one of them might be a better pass defender. Another one might be a good pass defender, but also good size to play on the run. And another one might be all run, And so, therefore, we, in certain situations, it gave us the ability to be able to substitute people in. And it was good for them, and it was good for us.
You've been asked about Brendan White a few times, but going into the year, a lot of people thought he was going to kind of be that guy who would play that bullet spot. Those guys got in the game over him. Just where does Brendan White kind of stack up in things right now?
Well, again, everybody keeps bringing, that again. Jocelyn Wynn played 3 plays. Brendan White played 17 or 18. It's the packages, and therefore you see that when Brendan went in, he had a very good game. He did some very good things, and so did Jay Wynn. And it's packages. It's different packages that the guys who have worked extremely hard to have the opportunity to play in.
So you view it like, instead of a depth chart, like one guy's ahead of the other, more like this guy's better in this different situation?
Right. We have that ability to do that, that to be able to plug people in, to be able to do what's best for them and their abilities, and what's best for our defense.
Second row right, Tony.
Greg, you mentioned the play action pass, and it's dangerous from Wisconsin. What kind of, I guess, luxury, or what does it do for you when you've got 3 lockdown corners against that type of offense?
Well, it really, to have our corners is a blessing. You know, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you'd really be nervous if a guy's a really good, really very successful at running the football, and then all of a sudden the next thing you do is you don't have guys that can cover one-on-one. You know, that allows you to do a lot more things, and to be able to have our secondary do what they have done is a real blessing as far as what we were able to call.
And when you're in off coverage, does that make them more susceptible to the play action, as opposed to if they're just up there at press man, not worried about the quarterback per se?
Yeah, it is. But I mean, I think the biggest thing that goes with the coverage part of it is the great job that our defensive line has done putting pressure on the quarterback. You know, you can have the best corners in the world. If you don't get a pass rush, they're not going to look real good at the end, and vice versa. You know, you can be a really, really good pass rusher, but if you can't cover, you have a problem with that also. And it's been, you know, I think our D line and our secondary have worked really well together to help each other. You know, and that's been a blessing.
Second row left, Steven?
When you're game planning for an offensive player other than a quarterback, where they have their best player is a skilled guy, is there a balance between, okay, this guy's going to get his numbers, or like maybe wanting to take him away and forcing like other guys on the offense to have a breakout game?
No, I don't think you do that. I don't think we ever say we're going to give this up to take this away. We don't do that, you know. And again, it goes back to the players you have. I think if you said that to our players, they'd look at you, coach, what do you mean? You know, I mean, we believe that our front will stop the run, and our linebackers in secondary will put pressure. We'll do our job that way, and it's an entire game. It's, you know, you have to be sound at everything you're doing, because in this league, if you don't, you'll get exposed, and that's where our players have done a really good job of that.
Folks, we're not going to be able to get everyone in with Coach, because I've got players starting to show up front row right, Bill.
Yeah, I know you'd love to win.
Players are a lot more important, by the way. You know.
Greg, I know you'd love to win every game 52-3, but how much excitement is there when you know you've got this kind of game this week after all of these blowouts? Is it different?
Oh, it's really, I mean, this is different because it's the 8th one. It's the next one. It's just really, really important to our guys. You could feel it when we all got together on Sunday. They all know this is as big as it gets right now, and there's great excitement. You know, I mean, you know, we have goals. Our players have worked extremely hard from the start of winter conditioning to everything that they have done up to this point right now. This is the next one, and we don't want anybody to take away from what they're trying to achieve. And so this is the next team, and they're a very good team. And so this is our next challenge.
And one of the things that separates this Wisconsin team from past ones, they have a big-time wide receiver, Cephas. How much pressure does that put on a defense?
Well, yeah, anytime you have a very, very skilled wide receiver like they have, but they got more than just him. I mean, he's really good, but their tight end is a very good receiver also. And so you now have offensive line, you've got a good tight end, and you've got a good wide receiver. We've got a very good defensive line, a very good secondary, and we're very excited about this game.
Fourth row left, Andy from the Lantern.
Yeah, Coach. With Tommy Togiai, we've heard for a while now that he's the strongest player on the team. But as the season has gone on, it seems he's getting a bigger role and he's making more plays. What other part of his game has really come along to allow him to do that?
Well, I think it's like all of the defensive line, all of the linebackers, all of the secondary guys. I think you're trying the way they practice, and that's very important. That if you came out and watched our guys, the way they practice, they're going to get better. And Tommy is one of them that practices extremely hard every snap. And when you practice like that and you're taught by Coach Johnson like you're being taught, and then you get the opportunity to play, that's what happens. And we're really, really proud of him. I'm really proud of him because here's a young man that just continually works as hard as he can, keeps his mouth shut, If he plays 7 plays or he plays 18, 20, 25 plays, goes as hard as he can go. And that's kind of the stereotype of the guys on a defense that's fun to coach.
And last question for Coach Madison, and if somebody absolutely needs to grab Coach Madison afterwards, they can just grab him for a couple minutes right outside here because I want to get Tommy up here. Front row right, Joey from the Dispatch.
Wisconsin always has great running backs. Throughout the years, it's like when Mike Leach's teams always have a great quarterback. But with Jonathan Taylor, is there something about him that's different than some of the guys that have run through there in the past?
Well, first of all, I don't know if people realize that I think he ran a 10-4 something. He was the state champ in New Jersey in the 100. He may not look like that all the time until you see him break and see somebody try to catch him. The other thing, he runs extremely physical. And to me, the thing that I've watched on him is he's one of those guys that he looks like he's stopped, and all of a sudden he comes out of the pile, and which shows he has great balance. And he's just a great running back. I mean, you don't get 2,000 yards rushing in the league and the conference that we play in without being an outstanding back.
Coach, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yep.
Tommy, want to pop on down? Go ahead and adjust the mic how you feel like you need it there. All right, we'll open up the floor for Tommy Togiai, front row right. Tim from Lettermen Row.
Tommy, how exciting is it for a defense to go against a celebrated back like Jonathan Taylor, and does that get you going even more this week?
Yeah, I think even from Sunday when we went to meeting with Coach Jay, I think we're really excited just to have this type of competition with the back that he is and with the O-line they have. They have a really good O-line and a strong physical back, so I think this game will come down to like the front 7 linebackers and D-line.
Right next door, Bill from the Dispatch.
Yeah, did you watch the Wisconsin-Illinois game, and were you hoping Wisconsin would come in undefeated?
I watched like the highlights of it at the end, and I mean they just had a couple slip-ups, but yeah, I think probably everyone wanted them to come in undefeated so we could play them, but we'll see.
I'm sure it doesn't take any of the luster away.
Yeah, it doesn't take anything away. We're still going to prepare like even if they did win or if they lost, so we prepare the same way.
Front row left, Doug from Cleveland.com.
You're strong, right?
That's just what they say.
How strong are you? Like, can you drop some numbers on us or explain? Just talk about that a little bit.
I mean, this is probably like what specifics? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what good numbers are. Like, what's your bench press? How many times can you do 225 on the bench?
The last time I did it was during the summer, and I got 36.
That seems like a lot. Why? How did that develop for you? Were you just a kid who in high school loved to be in the weight room, or why did you develop that part of your game?
Yeah, I think always just growing up, my dad was big on weights, and I think that just developed when getting to the high school, and then especially getting to Ohio State, just continue to develop that part of my game, and then also get into other attributes as well.
So once you are strong, and now you get out there on the field, what else do you have to do to be successful as a defensive tackle on the interior of the defense? I'm sure strength is nice, but that's not the only thing.
I think you can have all the attributes in the world, but if your technique's not good with what we've been taught here with Coach Jay, then you're not going to be a successful player. So I think technique goes along probably more important than anything than if you have great attributes.
Fourth row left, Andy from the Lantern.
Yeah, so we've heard a lot about working with Coach Jay and like how big that is for you guys. What has been his biggest stressor to you for this season and your improvement as a player?
I think so far the biggest things he wanted me to do is just try to wreck the line of scrimmage and try to knock line of scrimmage back, and that's been the biggest thing for me is just trying to create disruptions in the backfield and try to do the best I can.
Front row right, Austin from Lettermen Row.
Tommy, the play that kind of flashed to me the other night was when you came from one hash all the way to the sideline. to make the tackle. Everybody talks about your strength and you battle in the trenches, but is that a kind of play that gets you a lot of love from the coaches for the energy and the speed and everything that goes into chasing a play down?
Yeah, and I think that's just something that we've been going through that since the summer and since the start of since preseason camp has been running to the ball. That's been one of our big keys for the season, and so we run to the ball every practice, and that's just been stuck in I think all of the defensive guys' minds. It's just got to get to the ball. So that's just the thing.
I would think a big guy like you in the middle would run all the way to the sideline. You probably you don't like that, do you?
I mean, it takes some more energy, but it's just another hustle play, and that's what we need on the defensive end.
Front row middle, Dave from 24/7.
Tommy, Chase Young's development as a leader, is that something that he's elevated that this year? Or has he always kind of been like that?
I think he really took a big leap from last year in his leadership role. I think not just on the defense side, but as for the whole team. And I think he's really stepped up, and he can show that just through his play, but also the energy he brings during the warm-ups and in practice as well. He's a great he shows it in practice, and I think he stepped up his role this year.
You have a guy that everybody's projecting as a top 5 pick in Chase Young, and he's out there leading by example. That's gotta mean a lot to you guys, and really, I guess that's the embodiment of leadership right there.
Yeah, it for sure is. It shows the way, just the way he practices. It makes everyone want to practice harder and be better. So I think that's a testament to him.
Got time for one more question if I missed anybody. Not. Front row right, Tim, Lettermen Row.
Real quick, when y'all watched the video, I don't know if y'all watched the video of the Northwestern game, but when Diwan Jones knocked down, it looked like the entire Northwestern defensive line plus some of y'all's guys. I mean, what was the reaction? Obviously, Mitch Rossi had a hell of a block on that play too, but
I think once we saw him go in the game, everyone was just excited to see him get in there and try to do something. And like he did on that play, he opened up a big hole for Teague to score a touchdown. And I think everyone was just really excited for him, and everyone was going crazy on the sideline.
I don't know if you go against him ever in practice, but what is it like going against a guy who's 6'8", 360 or whatever he is?
He's heavy. Give me that. But he practices really hard, and he's getting better day by day. So I think that's good for him, and he's getting developed well by Coach Stud, and I think he's going to keep improving.
Tommy, just real quick, does this just feel like a game for you? With the run game like this, do you feel like this is a game where you can really help this team?
Yeah, I think it's a game for especially the D-line and linebackers. I think this will be a big test for us this season of stopping the run game and stopping Jonathan Taylor and seeing just playing physical up front. So I think it will be a really physical game.
Tommy, thank you very much.
Tommy.
Thanks, Tommy.
All right, folks, we're going to open up the floor for linebacker Tough Borland. Fourth row right, Joe from BSB.
Tough. You guys have done a great job stopping the run this year. I was wondering for you as an interior backer, how important have those big guys up front been figuring you guys out?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you play behind a great defensive line like that, it makes your job easier. They're always in the backfield. Tommy was just saying, just being disruptive, knocking the line back, and they're awesome.
Second row right, Tony from the Ozone.
Tough. Greg Madison was in here talking about Wisconsin's ability to throw the play action. What does it do for you guys when you've got 3 cornerbacks back there to help stop that?
Yeah, definitely. I think our corners and DBs can line up with anybody in the country, so that definitely makes everybody's job easier. Obviously, stop the run is number one, but that definitely makes our job a little easier as linebackers when you got corners like that in the background covering.
Front row left, Nathan from Cleveland.com.
Coach Day was saying that this becomes a week for the offense, just considering how highly ranked Wisconsin's defense is, to kind of come out and prove themselves a little bit. Does the defense, or maybe even just the linebacker group, do you guys see it the same way, that you're facing this rushing attack and this is a week where you can prove something or have something to prove?
Yeah, no doubt. I think every week, especially this week, is a week to come out and prove what you can do. Obviously they're very talented, have great players, offensively and defensively. So anytime you get a chance to come out and compete against a team like this, want to come out and show well.
Taylor is being used as a receiver more than he has been in the past? Is that something you've seen on film, and what kind of extra challenge does that give you guys?
No, definitely. I think when we saw him 2 years ago in the Big Ten championship, it was, kind of a first and second down guy. But now, he's bettered his game in all aspects, all the way through third down. Blocking, catching the ball out of the backfield. Oh, he's a great player.
Front row left, Mitch from the Associated Press.
Tough. Did you watch Illinois, Wisconsin?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. They obviously. First of all, I guess, did you see any cracks in their armor?
I don't know. Illinois played really hard, played well. I can't speak for Wisconsin, but we're going to get a team that's angry this week, and they're going to come out and prove themselves. So we got to be up for the challenge.
Does it change the way you prepare or see Wisconsin?
No, I mean they're the same team. Whether undefeated or not, one loss. They're solid all across the board. Great players. So we're going to come out and play well.
Front row middle, Dave from 24/7.
Tough. Last year, you guys gave up a lot of big plays. There was a lot of missed tackles, and you guys had a lot of penalties. This year, you guys are not committing a lot of penalties. You're not giving up big plays. You're not missing many tackles. What's been the biggest differences that you've noticed?
Well, I think schematically there's some differences. Try to keep everything in front of us. But I think it's just the way that we're running the ball. Anytime you run to the ball, we might miss a tackle, but there's 3-4 guys right there to tackle it. So I think that's the biggest difference with the big plays.
Sixth row right, Spencer from Lettermen Row.
Tough. Wisconsin runs a package, near the goal line where they put it seems like 9 offensive linemen.
Is that the Rhino package?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a defense, how do you stop that, and is there more of to not let them get into that package?
I don't know. If they get into it, they get into it. We're going to line up with big against big, and we're just going to try to keep them out of the end zone.
More predicated on pride. You kind of just have to man up and go big on big, like you said. How much pride goes into those kind of plays?
Yeah, no doubt. I think anytime a team gets in those situations, you want to show them that you're not going to break. They might get a play on us or two, but again, next play, line up. They're not in the end zone yet, so we'll try to keep them out.
Front row right, Austin, Lettermen Row.
Tough. When Coach Madison was in here, he seemed like not pleased with the rush defense on Friday night. On paper, it looks like it was fine, and you gave up 3 points. Did you leave that thinking there was a lot of room to improve?
Yeah, no doubt. I think that what they had 199, 200 yards, something like that, and I think 150 of them were through the run. So there's definitely some things we need to clean up.
And the rest of, they had to earn it, right? It was 3.3 yards per carry. You'd think normally you would take that. Is that too high to your mind? You need to do less than that?
Our thing is, there's always something to improve on, get better, keep enhancing.
Front row right, Tim, Lettermen Row.
How intensive a game? I know every game's intense for linebackers, but when you've got an elite back you're going against that they like to use play action off of, just how much more intense is a game like this from a quick decision-making thing for the linebackers especially?
Yeah, I think reading your keys are crucial. They're obviously going to come out and try and establish the run, but seeing the high offensive linemen when they hop up out of their stance to show pass, seeing that is going to be crucial.
And one thing, Coach Day went almost for a minute on how good Jonathan Taylor is, where he stands out. As you watch him on video, where does he kind of, not necessarily rank, but what stands out about him for you as a running back?
I think his patience. A lot of times you see guys thinking the ball's declaring, they jump out of their gaps, and he ends up finding that crease. So I think being real disciplined, gap-oriented defense, playing through your gap. Yeah.
right next door. Bill from the Dispatch.
Yeah, Jim, as kind of a old school linebacker, I would imagine this is the kind of game that you get really pumped up for. Could you describe your emotions, your feeling about playing Wisconsin? You know what you're going to get with them.
Right. Straight ahead, no fair dodging. They're going to come at you. We're going to have to come out after them. Like I said, be real gap-oriented with what we do, read our keys, and just play really fast.
Right next door, Joey from the Dispatch.
Tuff, you mentioned Jonathan Taylor's a patient runner. Greg Madison also mentioned he's really quick, too, and fast. Does that stand out on film as well?
Yeah, no doubt. Once he makes his decision, once he makes his cut, his acceleration is good. It's what makes him a great back.
Does he look like he has 10-4 speed?
Yeah, I mean, he's good. He's fast.
And final questions over here to the right, Clay from WSYS.
When one of their offensive linemen gets his hands on you, do you ever feel small? I mean, they seem like they've always been 6'5", 6'6" across the board.
Yeah, I mean, every team has big offensive linemen, especially Wisconsin. That just means we're going to have, as linebackers and defensive line, we're just going to have to be really good with our technique, engaging the block and getting off of it, just playing from there.
Great. Tuff, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
You mean a candy treat or just a sticker? I probably paid $17 for
Hey, folks, so just FYI, number one, anybody leave stuff anymore? I'm just trashing it. I'm not carrying computers and stuff around for a week. Try not to forget stuff. I got Chris Olave coming up here, and I'll tell you what I was going to tell you about next week after Chris. All right, Chris, we're going to open up the floor for questions. We'll start off front row left. Lori from 610 WTVN.
Chris, how do you mentally handle going from games where you might not see the ball very much to games where you're making such a big impact as you did on Friday night?
It goes for everybody in the receiver room. We kind of it could be me having a big game one game, and then probably Ben having a big game next game. You go from having 6 catches one game to having 0 catches the next game. We just we're unselfish in the receiver room, and we have a great bond with each other, and we're just happy for each other. So.
You talk about having a big game. Can you have a big game without having any catches, though?
Of course, we all try to make an impact on special teams and try to take that frustration out during the game, and we kind of use that in the blocking game also. We try to put good routes on film, and we can't control where the ball goes. So.
Frustration is good.
Yeah.
Third row right, Rob from the Dispatch.
Chris, he saw Ryan Day as the quarterback's coach and kind of part-time head coach last year, and now he's had this many games to kind of adjust. Is he the same guy that he was last year? Have you seen any changes in him in terms of him evolving, becoming more even confident from where he was last year?
I believe he's the same guy. He recruited me, so he hasn't really changed much, but he's more focused on the job. And when I walk past his office every day, he's watching film, and he hasn't changed as offensive coordinator or calling plays. So he hasn't really changed much, and that's what I like about him.
What was he like as a recruiter? You say he recruited you. What was the connection there?
He wasn't really trying to force me to come here. He wanted me to take all my visits and choose what's best for me. And he built that relationship with me and my parents, and that's what my parents loved about him.
Front row right, Tim, Lettermen Row.
Yeah, on your first touchdown the other night, did you use the umpire in the middle of the field as your turning point? But number one, was that a read all the way for you? Or was that the play all the way to cut it up straight up the field?
That was a play. We wanted to get quarters in that, and for that play, and we got that. And I had to go in there to Sam to have the safety fall off of me, and middle of the field was wide open. So.
This isn't my next question, but I wanted to ask: are you aware of the umpire standing there in the middle of the field? Do you see him all the time? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, how do you try to avoid him, et cetera? How does that alter play sometimes?
I saw him, but I didn't know he was that close to me when I watched the TV copy. So I saw him, but I had to avoid him. I didn't want to look too fast for Justin, so I had to avoid him and try to get open.
And well, let's say, would you describe this as, is this an attacking offense? How would you describe this to somebody who's never watched you guys play? What is your sense of what's special about you guys from an offensive standpoint?
You could say we're attacking. We very consistent with run and pass game. We got two great running backs in the backfield, and we got a tandem of receivers that could do everything. So, and we got one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, and one of the best offensive linemen in the nation. So, we're very balanced, and we can't wait to keep going.
Front row middle, Joey from the Columbus Dispatch.
Chris, you guys have been very successful on third downs this season. There was a play against Northwestern where it was 3rd and 15, and Justin kind of scrambles and finds you. How much is his ability to create really important on those third downs in particular, where the play kind of is able to stay alive when you have to get 15 yards or so?
It's really good for us receivers, and he likes to keep plays alive with his feet, and the scramble drill is in effect. So our second part of the route is very important, and we try to get open for him. So.
Right next door, Bill from the Dispatch.
Yeah, question about Justin. How quickly did you develop a close relationship with him?
He came in. He's not really a talker. He doesn't really talk much. So he came in and kept his head down, and he worked extremely hard, and he gained that respect, and he gained that respect from the team, and we look at him as a leader of the offense and a leader of the team. So.
When was the first time he made one of those wow plays, whether it was spring practice, just throwing the ball around, or whatever it may have been, that made you go, this guy could be something special?
I think it was the first couple of days of spring practice, and it felt like he wasn't missing a pass. So he's putting everything on target, and everything looked perfect to us, and that's when we gained that respect, and we counted on him. So.
Back row right, Spencer from the Lettermen Row.
Chris, on that punt that got rolled back to the punter and Thomas dove on it, you seem more excited about that on the field than you did 2 touchdowns you scored. Why was that? Why is that?
We put so much effort and so much technique and fundamentals into special teams, and when it comes to special teams, we all work as a unit. And if one person doesn't do his job, then we're not gonna get the job done. So when you snap that, and we were all excited for that, and I think it would have been a block punt, but yeah, we all worked all week, and we took so many reps for that play.
Do you think you would have got your hands on it had he got the ball?
Yeah, I think somebody would got their hands on it.
Second row left, Steven from Cleveland.com.
Back to the Michigan State game, it's one thing to just not have a catch in the game, because that happens a lot, but to not even get a target. You know, when you go back and you look at that film, and like, is there anything you're looking at to maybe like things you could have improved on, maybe have gotten open a little more often, or anything like that?
Definitely. I think that was one of my worst games, in my opinion, and we had them 2 weeks off, so having 0 catches and having 2 weeks off to try to rebound from that, it was real tough for me, and I feel like Michigan State's defense was pretty good, so they had certain coverages for our offense, and it was tough to get over that.
How How do you go from not even having a target to being able to do what you did on Friday night? Like, what did you change or what did you adjust to?
I didn't really change anything. I kind of changed my mindset that I'm happy for my teammates, and as the year kept going on, we kind of got more unselfish, and we can't control where the ball goes. So we just try to make an impact in wherever and help our team win.
Is it tough to make that type of adjustment when you've got that much talent in the room where you can't go from 5-6 catches in a game to maybe not even getting to look one game?
Yeah, it's real tough, but all season we kind of built that bond, and we have blood, sweat, and tears together, and we all try to build upon each other. And the receiver room is full of talent, and we try to put whatever on film, and we really can't control what's going on. So we try to be the best of ourselves and be happy for each other.
Third row left, Dan from 11 Warriors.
Chris, when you're going up against a defense like this that's ranked #1 in the country, do you guys view this as a benchmark to see how good this offense really can be?
We believe we're the best in the country also, so we believe we have the best offense and we're going against the best defense, so we'll see how that goes.
Is there more pressure going into a game like this to prove that because you know how good the competition is?
There's really no pressure on us. We prepare the same every week, so we gonna work hard in practice, and we probably gonna have some different schemes for the defense, and we'll see what happens.
What do you see in Wisconsin's secondary? What are the things they do that are going to present challenges to you guys as receivers?
They have some different coverages and different techniques they use in the secondary. And last week they kind of went cover 0 most of the game. And against the team up north, they kind of ran different coverages and drop 8 and cover 1. So if they run man, we have the best. We win against the best DBs in the country in our team, spring, summer, and fall camp. So I think we'll be prepared.
Front row right, Austin from Lettermen Row.
Chris, you talked earlier about Justin's, accuracy and that it looked perfect in practice. Is it always that way with him? I mean, obviously his completion percentage is high, but it seems like in games that you guys rarely have to get outside the numbers to catch passes. Is it really that way all the time with him?
Yeah, Justin's I feel like every pass is perfect, and when we get open, the ball is perfect right there on time, and even when we're not open, he puts the ball where we could catch it and the DB can't. So I got much love and respect for Justin, and I can't wait to keep going with him.
I would think that makes your job a lot easier if you know that it's going to be where it should be. There's no uncertainty running your route where the football might show up, right?
Yeah.
How much easier does that make your job?
It makes it way much easier, and even when the DB's close and he gives us a chance, and he trusts us, and we trust him. So.
Front row middle, Dave from 24/7. Last couple questions.
Chris, I'm just curious how much your life has changed in the last 11 months. Maybe a year ago at this time, the average fan maybe didn't know much about you. Then the Michigan game happened, your breakout game, Big Ten championship game, and then everything you're doing this year. Just how has your life changed in the last 11 months?
There's definitely a lot more people know who I am, and everyday life, going to class is more people coming up to me and asking for a picture and stuff. But it doesn't really change my mindset, and I always stay humble, and that's how my family is. So.
When do you think the light kind of came on for you? And it could have been right away, because I remember Urban and Coach Day were talking about you early in the year before you had your breakout game. When do you feel like the light kind of came on for you?
I feel like it came on, I would say, Michigan State last year when I had those 2 catches, and Coach Meyer and Coach Day kind of kept hyping my name to the media and stuff, and I just try to stay down and just do what's best for the team and try to help us win.
And final questions, front row left, Doug from Cleveland.com.
You guys seem to have success with some out routes and comebacks, and Justin hitting you guys on the sidelines. What goes into receivers and Justin being able to hook up on those? Sometimes it looks easy, and I'm sure it's not as easy as it looks sometimes.
Yeah, we rep those a ton in practice, and just practice makes the game easier. So we probably rep that about 10 reps in practice to that one play in the game. So it makes it easy for us to rep those, and if they gonna give it to us, then we would take it. So.
Can you feel? I mean, depending what their coverage is or the way certain teams play, are there times when you feel like, oh man, this is going to be a free 10 or 12 yards, I know we can connect on this?
Definitely. When they play free access, when they playing off, we take it as a route zone error. So we just take what they give us, and we happy with it.
And is that just, again, it's you got to run a precise route. Justin has to put it in the right spot. But if you do it correctly, it's almost always there.
Of course, we gotta run the route perfectly and not leak into our route, and we know Justin's gonna put it right there. So it's almost there every time, and we just rep it a lot.